Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Big Facts. I am joined by my co-host Aaron Barrison. I'm Justin Everett. Hey, Aaron, how are we?
Wonderful this morning. Didn't get my morning poop out of the way, so hoping I can have a nice smooth hour right here and not have any setbacks, but it looks like we're all right to go so far.
Homie, it's 10:30. You're behind schedule.
I'm real behind, man. You called me and I was still sleeping. I was having a nice Wednesday snooze. After watching a night of NBA basketball, which is back, how do you feel about now after making fun of me about Brooklyn finishing top three in the East? As last night, I know it's opening game, regular season against a team that is trying to get back into sync. But what did you think about the Brooklyn Nets?
Look, man, they're a team that's got dominant scoring. I have questions of if they can be cohesive together throughout a season and into the playoffs. That's where my questions about the Brooklyn Nets lie. You've said it to me a couple of times, and I disagree with you, but it's okay. I understand why you say it. Kyrie won as the second option, but was LeBron Kevin Durant? I don't think you can compare the second option rate because Kyrie still was the primary scorer. I don't know how it's going to work, but I will say, and I said it to you before we came on, I was impressed. I was impressed with the level of cohesion that they did meet. I'm surprised that coaching staff has them playing as well as they do. Obviously, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving help a lot with that. I was impressed, man. The Warriors look terrible, like I thought they were gonna. But listen, Kevin Durant is going to be worth 22 to 25 a game, and he's probably going to end up behind Kyrie in points per game by the end of the season. But Kevin Durant is going to be the centerpiece of that offense, and he looked good. And let's hope he stays healthy, bro. I think it could be good.
I want to make a point about Brooklyn, and then we'll go into the Eagles and then back into basketball. I disagree with you on several points, and we'll get into those a little bit more. But the first thing I noticed was like, wow, this Nets team looks like a Mike D'Antoni coached basketball team. The way they were moving the ball around, everybody was getting a turn. They were shooting the ball within 7 seconds of the 24 shot clock and things of that nature. The second thing was I didn't see almost any ISO basketball until their second unit came into play, and the obvious go-to scorer was Caris LeVert on the second unit as the sixth man. I saw almost no ISO basketball until he stepped on the floor without KD and Kyrie. And I do think KD's going to end up being the leading scorer on that team. I think Kyrie, from what I saw last night, and I could be completely wrong because throughout his career, he showed me that he wants to play one-on-one basketball. I saw Kyrie pass last night more than I've seen Kyrie pass, even with LeBron James on his team in the past 10 years. So there's something that maybe I'm thinking to myself, wow, did one of these coaches finally get through to Kyrie to a point where he's going to change my view on him just enough?
Can it be sustained? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Like, no doubt if that team plays the way that they played yesterday, they're going to be a problem for anybody. But can it be sustained?
Yeah, they were impressive. The Warriors were not, and we'll talk about the Warriors later. So let's move on to football real quick, Joss. Or not real quick. We're going to do half a show on football. I want to get some Eagles points out of the way. A couple points that I want you to respond to. But first thing first, this Pittsburgh Steelers team, we talked about this Bengals pick that we made prior to the game, plus 14.5. Probably the first or second easiest pick of the week. Knowing that with a backup, and it's surprising, right? Because with a backup quarterback, there's no Joe Mixon. Tyler Boyd went out in the first quarter, and Cincinnati had this spread covered the whole game. It was not even close. I had a conversation, what you might want to call a conversation last night. You chimed in with a Steelers fan. I had mostly realistic Steelers fans and one delusional fan telling me that, well, they didn't have their linebackers on defense, and James Conner makes a huge difference in the run game. This is the Cincinnati Bengals. with the backup quarterback.
Wait a minute. You said backup twice. This is just so everybody's aware. The third string quarterback.
The third string quarterback, no starting running back. Tyler Boyd's been by far their best receiver all year. T. Higgins is not far behind them, but Tyler Boyd's been their best receiver all year. And I mean, they led this game for, what was it, 3 quarters, just about. Is there any way that you see the Steelers, A, turning this around and coming up with a win over the next 2 weeks, facing the Browns and Indy, and B, winning a playoff game?
The answer to both questions is no, I don't see a way. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers will win another game this season. I think that they will lose the next 2 and they'll lose the wild card because the team's been figured out. And James Conner is obviously a difference to a game, but he's not a difference maker. Like he adds something that you don't have. But there's no way you can convince me that a world exists where a defensive play caller and a league average running back change the outcome of a 10-point loss to a really bad football team. Like, you lost the game. That's it. That's all. Like, you lost. You just lost. Mike Tomlin's a great coach, dude. Does it exist somewhere? I'm sure there's something they can figure out. But with the personnel that they've got around them, I don't know how much more you can do. Juju Smith-Schuster is not all of a sudden going to start catching balls like Calvin Johnson did. You can't restructure that game plan. You can't make your offensive linemen be better than they've been. You can't make Ben Roethlisberger 25 while he's 38. There's a lot of things that are going against him. I don't think that they win another game this season. I don't think that they win in the playoffs. It's a shame because Ben really did put together a stellar first half of the season, trying to make a case in his last year. I just don't think that this team around him is good enough to overcome the deficiencies of a 38-year-old quarterback. I mean, we talked about Tom Brady the last couple of weeks. The deep ball's just not there. I watched that happen in that game. The deep ball's just not there for Ben Roethlisberger. And it's a shame to watch, but no, man, they don't win again, dude. There's no way.
And people have to realize, I can understand thinking that James Conner makes somewhat of a difference. I think Snell, given the opportunity, is just as good as running back. James Conner's never been a guy that's going to break an 80-yard, 60-yard run for you if he gets past the second level. The reason that the Pittsburgh Steelers offense runs a short passing game the way they do is an extension of the run because they can't run the football and they don't have the offensive linemen to open up the holes that you want. They believe that their wide receivers are better blockers on the cornerbacks. They got some bigger wide receivers, Chase Claypool and such. I think those guys are better blockers when they receivers out, and their offense are opening up holes for their running backs. And that's why they run the offense that they do. The problem is after an elbow surgery and Ben's age, and no receiver has gone off, Browns left that football team because he took the number one guy all over the place. They don't have a guy that, A, can get the separation like that, and they don't have a quarterback that can hit those guys deep when they do get the separation like that. So we're starting to see that, they had these divas on this team. They let Antonio Brown go. Obviously, I can understand why, but those were 2 guys that were so crucial to your offensive success, and you don't have home run hitters on that offense anymore. You also don't have them in the short passing game either. Chase Claypool destroyed the Eagles when they weren't just weren't a good football team. They're still not a good football team, but he's not a guy that's going to go out and get you a touchdown every single game. This Pittsburgh taking time of possession because they can't run the football. And when you have a top 3 defense, Justin, but they're on the field the whole game, your offense can't sustain a drive, it doesn't matter quite how good they are because they're on the field the whole game. So they can be a top 3 defense, but if you're losing time of possession 40-20, it doesn't matter. The offense gets too many opportunities to beat you.
Yeah, I mean, again, dude, it's a shame to have watched what went down go down because it's really indicative of watching the last gasp of a great quarterback. Ben was a great quarterback. He's a scumbag off the field. We all know he's a piece of shit, but he is a great quarterback. He's done some really good things on a football field. I don't see a way, man. Like I look at the Eagles, right? I see what Doug Peterson's abilities are and his scheming abilities are, and I see what the players on the field are capable of. And I don't see it marrying each other in Pittsburgh, dude. Like it's turned into a problem. And I'll tell the truth, it took until this game for me to say that. I know that they had lost a couple before and they were looking bad anyway. But this game to me was like, oh my God, this football team, where their identity's gone.
Because it's the inability to make adjustments because of the personnel. So coaches will make the adjustments when they see something failing, but if they don't have that, like we asked the Eagles to more at the beginning of the season carry. You can relate it. It's hard to run the football when you have Jordan Mailata, who's been a great pass block left tackle, but has no NFL experience. So you try to get him on the first and second level in your run game, and it's hard to make that happen. So they just don't have the personnel to make the adjustments necessary to beat these football teams, and they've been figured out. They put linebackers and corners 3 to 4 yards, maybe 3 yards off of everybody that's on the line of scrimmage, and they wait for Pittsburgh to make a decision, and then everybody runs to the football. They don't have the personnel or I will say this. A lot has been we've been praising Mike Tomlin all year and praised him for never having a losing season for his coach. And I'll say it again. I said it at the beginning of the year. The trajectory of Mike Tomlin's career is the exact same trajectory as Doc Rivers' career. It's exactly the same. I'm not going to sit here and say Mike Tomlin is overrated because you don't go 14 seasons without a losing record to be considered not. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame coach. He's still overrated. There's always 2 or 3 coaches every single year almost that I would take over Mike Tomlin. He was gifted a great roster from Bill Cowher when he first took over. He got 1 of 2, and he's never, ever made it. Never made it. It's the same exact trajectory. So I just want to get that out of the way.
Dude, we know how you feel. I know that you want to talk shit about Doc Rivers as much as you can to temper expectations because we are Sixer fans probably primarily. So I get it, trying to draw us back down to earth. But for the love of God, can you stop saying that Mike Tomlin is Doc Rivers? Because that means that we'll never fucking win here. So shut the fuck up.
My last time. A couple things
I don't disagree anything. Let me wrap up Pittsburgh. I don't disagree anything that you said about how to play that football team, and that's the problem. That's what people need to understand. Neither one of us have a grudge against Pittsburgh. We don't dislike them. I respect the franchise. I like Mike Tomlin. I think that they're a great team. But you've been figured out. And just go back and watch the last couple games and watch what defenses do, and that's what they've done. All they do is wait them out because they're slow and they get to the ball. And you win the game. And the Cincinnati Bengals just did it with a third-string quarterback. It's a problem. What are we going to next? Eagles, buddy?
It looks like an all-pro defense. A couple points before we get to the Eagles that I noticed for NFL Sunday, and then we'll get to especially Jalen Hurts and the Eagles.
Allen's the leading candidate for the MVP, right?
I didn't quite go there yet. Because Patrick Mahomes is still winning football games. So
it's not as impressive.
So here's a nice stat for you, bud. It's going to be your favorite stat of the day. I know you know where I'm going with this. So Tua's quarterback against Bill Belichick this past Sunday was the highest of any rookie quarterback in the last 6 years against the Belichick defense. I just want to get that out of the way.
Why do you do this? Why do you do this? Shut up for a minute. Shut up for a minute. Shut up for a minute.
Hold on. In the wild card.
Shut up for a minute. Shut up for a minute. First of all, are you ready to tell me that you were wrong? Miami wasn't going to win the division, and I was right when I said the Bills.
They're still going to make the playoffs, but yeah, go ahead.
Ho, motherfucker. You said Miami was going to win the division. I said it was going to be Buffalo. Who was right?
Yeah, but you said Miami was going to be a 4-win football team. They're going to make the playoffs. But so we'll split that one.
No, there's no split. You were wrong. Buffalo won the division, but that's okay. Anyway, so what is it? Tell me what it is. Maybe I don't know if he's dating your sister. I don't know if he knows your cousin. I don't know if he dapped you at a game while you went to visit in Alabama. I don't know what it is the two has got you wrapped up in. I don't get it. So when you watch Jalen Hurts play a football game right now, it's exciting, right? You don't know where the play's going. He's got decisiveness. He makes plays that other people don't see. That's what you see out of Jalen Hurts right now. We agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Not for one moment has that been Tua. Tua had an offense built, designed, and schemed around his skill set. Around his skill set. Has Tua been impressive? Absolutely. More so than I thought. 100%. But Robert Griffin III had the same thing happen. And Tua's already
you can say that about anybody. You can say that about any rookie quarterback.
Hold up. Tua has already had a major reconstruction surgery in his hip. If he gets hit wrong, he goes down just like RG3 did. And I'm telling you, the guy is fragile.
It's different.
Bro. I don't know why you love Tua.
He's 5-2. He's winning football games. He's 5-2 as an NFL quarterback, 64% completions. He's completing a better percentage than Jalen Hurts is. So let's move on to the Eagles.
He had an offense built for him.
There's no skill players on Miami. Personal Miami.
Hold on.
So
Stop talking for a second. Hold on. Stop talking for a second. Tori, this is an easy one to me. Doug has unlocked this offense to whatever the fuck Jalen Hurts wants to do. I think he put up 38 in my fantasy league last week. Start Hurts.
Yeah, so actually Jalen Hurts did something last week, and I believe it was noted in his second Carson Wentz has not been since he's been an Eagle, putting up 400 yards of total offense and 3 touchdowns. He has made this Eagles offense look completely different. This is his second start. Justin, the most touchdown passes were on 3rd and 4th down, by the way, his touchdown runs, his touchdown passes. What did you see from Jalen Hurts? First of all, what did you see from the play calling in Doug Peterson allowing Hurts to be Jalen Hurts? And how do you evaluate this team moving forward?
All right, so this is a complicated topic, so I'm going to try to cover it all fast. First of all, what I saw out of Jalen Hurts is, again, I see decisiveness, I see confidence, I see execution, I see athleticism, I see a young Russell Wilson. I'm not afraid to say it out loud. If he accomplishes his potential, that is his potential. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but if he does, that's what the outcome is. And that's what I see from him.
Yeah.
I see a competitor. I see a guy that never quits. I see a guy that just wants to win. He just wants to find a way to win, and he wants to be a difference maker in that win. And unlike Carson Wentz, I feel like he does believe the same. Carson Wentz wants to be the guy that won. Jalen understands that it's not just him, and he understands he's not always going to be the hero. So he's just a competitor, dude. He's an overall competitor. I think he's going to be a great quarterback in this league. As for the Eagles, dude, play calling's interesting, right? I've had a conversation about this the last 2 weeks since he's come in. And the play calling aspect of it, I don't see a ton of difference in the playbook.
I don't either.
I just see significantly improved execution. And that's all around the board. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, the offensive line combination that we've called for 6 weeks, finally trying to gain some level of cohesion when you're actually putting your best players out there. You do have better players in better positions to execute, and obviously a quarterback with confidence is a huge difference. But I don't see this being any different than Doug Peterson's playbook of this year, of last year. This is Doug's offense. This is what he wants to do. This is the level of emphasis he wants to put on run, pass, and option plays. And Doug has an athlete again. to do it like he did in 2017 before Wentz got hurt. And I think this is where the quarterback position as a whole is going. I mean, you look at guys like Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes. They're all baseball players too, right? They've been drafted to the MLB. You shared that article. Having an athlete at that position is the key to a lot of what I believe to be perceived poor game plans by coaches. Like, imagine Andy Reid with Russell Wilson. That would be the greatest pairing in the history of time. Andy with the offensive mind he's got for the quarterback position, and Russell Wilson with all that ability. That it's Patrick Mahomes-esque, right? I mean, that's what we're seeing. Yeah. That I think unlocks a lot of things. And I'm still out on Doug. I'm not ready to say bring Doug back and sign him to another 3-year extension. If a better option comes, I want it. But if Jalen Hurts is my quarterback next year, I feel confident with Doug. I think Jalen Hurts with a team that's healthy and cohesive and has more time and less injuries, I think Jalen Hurts can win 10 games or 11 games on this team. So I don't think that future-wise we've got any more clarity yet. I think, if anything, it looks more and more like Howie and Doug will be back next year. But if Jalen Hurts works out, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean?
The Doug Peterson point is interesting because I'm watching I feel like I'm watching a brand new Eagles offense with the same play calls that I've watched the last 2 years. We've been complaining Eagles' ability to move the football the last 2 years, especially in the first half. I remember Doug Peterson last year having press conference about getting off to hot starts because in the first half of football games, they couldn't score. And then in the second half of football games, it's been the same thing this year. Before Jalen Hurts came into the Eagles as a starter, they were averaging 4.5 points per first half. Not even 2 field goals, not a touchdown. A field goal and a half is what they were averaging in the first half of football games. Now, this wasn't much better of a start. I think they got down 16-0 early. The defense tightened up. The offense started playing well. But you just see more consistency with the offense moving the football and the ability to convert with shorter field actually makes a stand. And it seems like the defense is giving more juice. So, to your point, I don't necessarily want to see Doug Peterson get 3 more years and a big extension, but it's fascinating to watch a rookie come in his first and second start and run the same exact plays as Carson Wentz has been running for years, and the offense look like a completely different offense that's executing and assignments. It's fascinating to watch. I haven't seen a game. Carson Wentz on average, when we watch him, he goes for somewhere around 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts on, I think it was 48 attempts, threw for almost 400 yards. There's something to be said about everything that's going on here. And I think a lot has to do with last couple years, we've just seen Carson Wentz lose his mobility and his quickness. And so the defense that we're playing against, to your point, you have to have a running quarterback in the NFL right now. Defensive schemes are too good. Defensive coaches are too good. They're making rules to allow offenses to execute better. The highest scoring teams in the league this year, excuse me, for at least the majority of the season were Seattle and Arizona. And what do they have in common? They're 2 football teams with running quarterbacks. So Wentz has lost a step. Teams like the Steelers don't have that dimension. We look at Brady and we think he's taking a step back. He's actually having a good season statistically, but he's immobile in the pocket. We know the Colts could be a much better offense if they had any type of guy that could do anything outside of a 3-foot range in the pocket. Like, that's what's been talked about, even just Wentz going there for a small step up on Phillip Rivers being able to escape. So you have to have a motor quarterback. It adds another dimension. I completely agree with you. Looking forward to next season, what do you think the Eagles need to do first in the draft? And given their lack of cap space and what's going to be their inability really to go after any big free agents, what do you think they need to go after first, second, and third in this upcoming draft?
Well, first of all, the most important part of this offseason is trying to find a way to get Carson Wentz off this team. Whatever it means, trying to make it happen. Kirk Cousins is doing okay. I'm just saying. Okay. So on top of the fact that you got to get rid of Wentz somehow, you got to find a way. First, listen. You got to find a way to end up with Ja'Marr Chase out of this draft. There's no two ways about this. I've gone over this. I've thought about this. I have done research on top of research. You cannot end up without the number one wide receiver in this draft for a couple of reasons. Jalen Reagor is going to need time to develop into the player he's going to be. We've discussed that at length in this podcast. You need a guy that can just be there to catch the football, that takes some pressure off of Reagor. And Ja'Marr Chase is going to be, in my opinion, better than Jerry Jeudy and Justin Jefferson. Ja'Marr Chase is going to be a monster. He is going to be a problem. And if you are sitting at 8, 9, 10 in the draft order, and you can find a way to get up to 6 or 7 where it looks like he's going to go, and that's at the earliest that he goes. There's a lot of O-linemen. There's a couple of quarterbacks at the top of this draft. You might be able to sit at 9 or 10 and get him. You need to get Ja'Marr Chase no matter what it takes. So that's the first round. Going forward from there, man, I need defensive backfield depth, and I need offensive linemen. I need an O-lineman in the second or third, and I need a cornerback or a safety in the second or third. I don't really care about the order. Depends on where the talent level resides, but that's what you need. You need depth in the second, third, and fourth round this year.
There seems like because of the amount of injuries the Eagles have, that there's more holes than there actually are offensively, Justin. My first priority, if I'm Howie Roseman and the Eagles, is to try to shed every contract of any guy with a couple years left that I'm overpaying that's 30 years old or older. I'm trying to first move Wentz, but then I'm not re-signing Zach Ertz to the contract, near the contract he wants if he wants to stay. Nope. I need to get rid of Deshaun Jackson's contract. I need to get rid of Alshon Jeffrey's contract. There's just guys that are getting paid more than what they should be getting paid and are way too old and obviously past their prime, even to a point where Jalen Hurts hasn't been able to make them look good either. I mean, even as good as Alshon Jeffrey's looked the last couple weeks, he is still massively overpaid. You got to find a way to get rid of these guys and clear some cap space up. The thing with the offensive line, and everybody keeps talking about this, they're actually in very good shape. I know it seems weird.
Say that. I'm
telling you, I know.
No, wait a minute. You can't. Let me explain why. Say that because you're going to give me a bunch. You're going to give me a bunch of young guys, which I get, but you've got no proof of any of them being a player. You don't know if Jack Driscoll is going to be a player.
It's not
going to be a player.
Not young guys. We have 4 guys that have been starters on this will all be back next year. Isaac Seumalo, Jason Kelce should be back. Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson. Now, if Jason Kelce doesn't come back, we can have it for discussion. But there's 4 guys on that offensive line right now that have been starting on this football team for a long time. And Jordan Mailata has proved all year that he can play left tackle. And, oh, yeah, you still have Andre Dillard, who hasn't played more than a game and a half at left tackle at any point, waiting in the wings, coming back from injury. So aside from those, your depth is in Dillard, Herbig, and Jack Driscoll, who have all started this year and done well. So you have 5 starters and 3 guys that can play football on this offensive line. That doesn't mean you don't need to add another O-lineman for depth, but the O-line is actually in pretty good shape. And I don't know how you can shake your head no, because there's 4 starters coming back that have been starting on this football team for a couple years now.
If Jason Kelce retires, who plays center?
That's what I just said. If Jason Kelce doesn't come back, we can have a different discussion, and we're going to need to draft a center. But other than that,
it looks like Jason Kelce is going to retire. By all reports, it looks like Jason Kelce is going to retire.
We've thought that for a couple of years, though. We've thought that for a couple of years.
But that's why this year seems legitimate after COVID, and he's 35 years old, and he's not going to come do it again and repeat it again.
Outside of a center, which is big. That's what you need to draft if he leaves. You need to draft a center, but you're sitting here talking about tackle.
If you have a bad center, your left tackle and right tackle don't fucking matter.
I understand that, but we're going to assume for all intents and purposes right now that Jason Kelce's coming back until he says otherwise.
What does assuming do, Aaron?
You're not.
Assuming
it's the same thing. It doesn't matter one way or another.
Stop assuming. I'm not assuming. I'm going off of all the reports that are available right now, which say that he's going to retire. And if that does come to fruition,
you need to draft a center.
And you're not going to draft a center that's going to be an NFL caliber starter in the second and third round.
That's not true. Centers get drafted in the second and third round every year.
Oh, Jesus fucking
Christ. No, not necessarily.
Now we're arguing about diamonds in the rough. Like they're just easy for Howie Roseman to pick up.
Let's move on from the O-line because we're sitting here talking about if Jason Kelce's going to retire. Aside from that, obviously we need a DB. Slay's been this year locking up one side of the football. The other side's been an issue. We've had an issue at safety. We've missed out on safeties in the second round that have been starters all over the NFL for multiple seasons now. And then we also obviously need a linebacker. Eric Barnett's probably not going to be back. I think they signed Brandon Graham to a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract. Either way, if it's a 2-year, I'm not really worried about that position, but I think Malik Jackson's gone next year. Reagor is, to me, from what it looks like, Justin, going to be a number 2 receiver or a guy that you can depend on in the slot. I'm not sure even at his peak development, Jalen Reagor is going to be a number 1. Are you seeing him – for a second. Jalen Reagor has been driving me crazy the last couple weeks because for whatever reason, when he thinks he's not getting the football, just stopping at the top of his breaks and at the top of his routes and not finishing the route and then getting overthrown by a step when the ball comes away, didn't think the ball was coming his way. Have you seen that or is it just me?
No, I mean, there's been lack of execution, and I don't know if it's because Jalen Reagor got dealt the shittiest hand a rookie wide receiver could ever get dealt, or if it's because Doug Peterson's a bad coach. I don't know what the reasons are, but there's been a lack of execution and what seems to be communication. I don't know that – it depends on what you call a number 1 receiver, man. Like Tyreek Hill, for example, right? We call Tyreek Hill a number 1 wide receiver. But if Tyreek Hill had Devontae Adams on his team, Tyreek Hill would be the number 2 just because of the game he plays. Devontae Adams is to go up and get it number 1 receiver. Tyreek Hill's a playmaker. So I still see Jalen Reagor being able to become what could be considered a number 1 wide receiver. But the reason I'm so high on Jamar Chase and bringing in that Justin Jefferson go up and get the ball type receiver, the true number 1, is to unlock the potential of Jalen Reagor, because I think he'll be better as a number 2 because the pressure's not on him to have to – when you're a speed receiver who relies on cuts and breaks, 1 millimeter, 1 degree of a miss messes your entire play. Whereas a guy like again, Calvin Johnson, you just toss the ball up, you go get it. So I think it takes some pressure off Reagor. I see what you're saying. I just don't recognize it as a problem that can't be fixed, because I think it gets fixed with another receiver.
You could say that. My thought process is if we don't get that other receiver that everybody thinks should be like the typical number 1 guy, the 6'3", runs a 4.4, has a 44-inch vert. I think to myself, if Jalen Reagor's the lone guy, playing the X or the Y, is he the go-to guy on this team? And it's early to tell because it's still, year number 1. And a lot of these guys, A.J. Brown, guys like that, they break out in year number 2. But I think for the most part, when you draft somebody in the first couple games in the first half of the season, you're like, wow, this guy's a number one. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, you're like, this guy can be a number one receiver if Amari Cooper's not there. Jerry Jeudy, you're like, wow, if he had great quarterback play, like you can tell he's a number one receiver. Justin Jefferson, wow, this guy's a number one receiver. He's outplaying Adam Thielen this year. Tyreek Hill is a little bit different because Tyreek Hill has a burst that nobody else in the league has that I haven't seen outside of Deshaun Jackson when Deshaun Jackson was a little bit younger. I have not seen Tyreek Hill messes up angles of DBs and linebackers like I've never seen in my life. He just blows by people. Jalen Reagor is fast, but he doesn't quite have Tyreek Hill speed. So when you're an undersized guy and you're not as fast as a Deshaun Jackson or a Tyreek Hill, I just don't see how it could work out for you being a number one when your route running isn't precise and perfect coming out of college.
I don't disagree with you, bro, and I think that's really the problem with Reagor, which is why I agree to call him a number two I don't think is unfair or a slot guy, because a lot of people outside of the Kansas City bubble would call Tyreek Hill a slot receiver. They don't know what a number one receiver is like that's like Tyreek Hill. That's not what that guy is. But no, I mean, I think there's potential to be reached there. We want to jump on to NBA now, bro?
Yeah, give us 90 seconds and we will cover some basketball from last night and then talk some Sixers basketball.
All right, bro.
All right, Justin. So last night we watched our first set of NBA games. Tonight we have the Sixers at 7 o'clock. I couldn't be more excited for that. I'm excited to see what this Sixers team looks like with the added pieces plus Doc Rivers. Let's talk about Sixers expectations. Let's go back to that Brooklyn Nets and Warriors game because there's a couple points we obviously need to make about Brooklyn and about the Warriors. Lakers Clippers was last night. Paul George put up 33 points. Lakers got their ring. Came out, a little bit flat, which I think most people after a ring ceremony kind of expect. We've seen that, almost year after year. The beginning of the year, just for me, like Lakers Clippers, that both teams that know that they're going to be in the playoffs, be between 1 and 3 seeds and are going to see each other multiple times and probably see each other again in the playoffs. And on opening night, I don't put much stake into any opening night games, but unless there's a new coach and a lot of new players on a team, I want to see how they gel. So like the Brooklyn Nets and the Warriors game's interesting, right? Because there's a bunch of new players. Klay Thompson's out, Draymond Green's there, Steph's coming back from injury, but you know what you're getting with the Lakers and the Clippers for the most part. Am I wrong?
Dog, you just made a whole point about how you don't put much stock into the opening game and then said, but wait a second, I'm about to contradict myself and tell you why.
KD's back.
No, listen, it's literally what I said in the beginning about Brooklyn, dude. I agree with you. There's not like this Sixers game tonight. I'm excited to see basketball again for sure. Like I'm happy to have basketball back. I don't expect to see the workings of Doc Rivers completed in game one. You know what I mean? I'm not expecting to see Seth Curry score 40 fucking points. Like, I don't think it's going to be, oh my God, look at this. But it's gonna show you the trajectory that these teams are on. Even though the Lakers came out flat, it's very simple. I said this to you earlier. The Lakers could be the 8th seed, and they're gonna win the NBA Finals this year. It does not matter where they play, who they play. That team is that good. Again, I do believe a little bit weaker because their defensive substitutions got worse. Dwight Howard and Danny Green not being there. I don't care who you put in their place. They're two premier defenders at their positions. I don't expect to see a ton. I just expect to see pick and roll. I expect to see plays made for Ben Simmons to shoot 14 to 17 foot jump shots. I see progression is what I'm looking for. That's what I think Doc is going to give us. Tori, you're not wrong, bro, about KD and Kyrie. Listen, I said it the last couple of weeks, dude, that I didn't think KD would be the same player. I know I watched the game last night. I know he looks like he's the same player he was, but it is game one. It's a lot of excitement. It's him and Kyrie together for the first time. It's a lot of one game. And I think that he is a 22 to 25 point per game guy. That's what I said the last episode. And you told me he was going to be north of 28, which if that Kevin Durant we saw last night stays going and stays improving, he could be a 30 point a game guy. I don't see it. I think the 22 he gave you is all you're going to need. I think Kyrie is going to be the primary scorer on that team. When it comes to the stat line, I think Kyrie's just going to take more threes. I think he's going to play a little bit more ISO game while they try to work in a system. But I agree with what you said earlier. It was a Mike D'Antoni offense that was executed to perfection. Karis LeVert looks legit. Tori, you said on Facebook that Karis LeVert's the 6th man of the year this year. I don't know that I can disagree with you after what I saw yesterday. I mean, that Brooklyn Nets team has got serious scoring. They are a team that's going to be hard to keep pace with. But what I wonder is how much are they suffering on the defensive side of the ball? When they play a team that is complete, not a depleted Warriors team that's got 4 new pieces. When they play a whole team, is it going to look as easy and is it going to look as dominant? I don't know the answer to that question because they haven't played an offense that can keep up with them yet because it's a game into the season.
Yeah, the thing we have to remember with Kevin Durant, though, and to your point, so from watching that basketball team last night, we already knew there was 4 guys on that team that any given night can be the guy that scores 30 points. They actually have 3 guys that on any given night can give you 40. KD, Kyrie, and LeVert can all go off and give you that level of production on the offensive end. So KD might not have to score that much. The thing with Kevin Durant that people are forgetting is, and I think Charles Barkley made a good point last night. Guys that have more trouble coming back from that type of injury are guys that rely on their athleticism to be a huge part of their skill set and their game. So when we talk about like Derrick Rose tearing his ACL, for instance, Derrick Rose's best attribute was that he was faster, quicker, and more athletic than everybody on the floor. KD's best attribute is that he shoots from 7'3" in the air. That's his best attribute, and that's not going anywhere. We also have to remember that Kevin Durant got injured in the finals and then sat out for the whole next season. So usually when guys have that type of injury, it happens at the beginning of the year. They sit out for the entire year, and then they come back at the beginning of the next year. Kevin Durant had the finals, the offseason, the entire regular season, the playoffs again, and now an extended version of the beginning of the season because usually the season starts earlier than it has now. So he's had more time to recover from that injury than most people actually get and try to rush back from. And I saw Kevin Durant running up and down the floor, blowing by his opponent last night, going up for a couple dunks. And he doesn't have to get that high off the ground to execute anything that he normally executes, but I didn't see him being a step slower. I still think that in that type of offense, that they're going to be one of those teams that's consistently like, we're going to look at box scores after a night of basketball and we're going to see, Brooklyn 128 and X team 110. I mean, they're going to run up the score on a lot of teams. So to think that Kyrie and KD both can't be 25, 27, 29 point scores along with Karis LeVert, I think we'd be fooling ourselves. And I don't see really any difference in Kevin Durant.
Hold up, though. Here's the question, and I'm going to make a statement about Brooklyn, and I'm going to tie it into the Sixers, and we're going to talk about the Sixers. I don't know if those two guys, when it comes to crunch time, when they play a team that can keep up, when they play the Lakers, when they play even a team like the Clippers that is obviously going to have some good scoring this year, if they're playing a team that can keep up, is that cohesion going to stay in existence? Is Kyrie and KD not going to clash for that shot? So I want to parlay that into the Sixers. What do you think this starting five is tonight?
Well, let me get to this real quick, and then I'll answer that question. Just one last point. The Lakers and Clippers are never going to be able to score that many points. The reason that they keep up with teams like that is because they're great on the defensive end, and they create offense from that. The Sixers starting lineup tonight obviously is going to include Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. So who are the other two pieces? You can't really put Dwight in there with Embiid, so it's going to be a small forward, probably Danny Green, and a shooter in Seth Curry. The only question I think we're talking about at this point is, have they seen big enough strides from someone like Thibault in the offseason and in their training camp to give them the okay to start ahead of a guy like Seth Curry? And do you think he gives you enough spacing on the offensive end to execute a Doc Rivers?
All right, so here's what's important about what you just said. So what is Seth Curry proven to be good at?
3-point shooting.
And in what capacity on a team?
What do you mean by that question?
Seth Curry is a sixth or seventh man, 20 to 25 minutes a game. That's his sweet spot.
Usually, yeah.
Now, that's not to say that he can't play 30 to 32 and be a starter. I don't want to say he can't do it because I got to see it to know for sure. But Danny Green is a guy who has, when Danny Green was in Toronto, he was a starter. He came off the bench in LA, but Danny Green can be a starter and give you the same production.
Yeah.
To me, the only right decision at the two is either Matisse Thybulle or Ty Maxey. It's what guy do you think is going to complement Shake Milton's? Because what we know about Shake, right? Shake's the sixth man of this team. We agree. You'll Maxey comes out and gives us something right now. I mean today. I don't mean like 6 months from now. Right now, your sixth man is Shake, right?
Yeah, sure.
So you got to find, in order to let Shake play the game that he's good at, Shake's got to be a ball handler. He's got to have the ball in his hands, and he makes shit happen. So you need to discern whether it's Matisse's game that fits Shake the best off that second unit, or if it's Ty Maxey's game. You need to have Seth Curry come into the game when you need a swing of momentum and hits a couple of big shots from the corner. That's what starts his game.
I think you're looking at it wrong because you're looking at it on who complements the second unit best. And hold on, and I'm looking at it as, if Ben Simmons is on the floor and he's not shooting the basketball, how do I get the most spacing? Seth Curry can still start and only play 26 minutes. He doesn't have to play 30 minutes just because he's starting. If Ben Simmons is on the floor, you are going to need as much space as possible. And the two guys that give you as much space as possible is the highest percentage three-point shooter in the league in Seth Curry and Danny Green. You can't necessarily start Matisse Thybulle if he hasn't improved greatly in his ability to hit three-point shots.
So hold up. Let me ask you this quick question. Do you think today that Matisse is any less efficient than Danny Green is?
Well, Danny Green has a 10-year track record of doing this.
I don't disagree with you, but we also saw Danny Green, his age, start to catch up with him the last couple of years. So do you think Matisse can give you the same efficiency?
I start Danny Green, and I make Matisse earn that spot during the season.
I don't think there's any way that you can start Seth Curry and Danny Green. You need one of those guys to be your bench guy. You don't have a bench guy. Again, Shake is your sixth man, but you don't have a bench guy. I'm not ready to count on Mike Scott. I know that he had a good couple of games in the preseason, but I'm not ready to count on Mike Scott as a difference maker on the second unit.
I'm not even thinking about Mike Scott.
Right, so I need Danny Green to run my second unit, to be the guy on the floor with me that understands, or Seth Curry. I don't disagree. Tori just said Seth Curry compliments Ben the most. No doubt. I am 100% with you. Seth Curry is a catch-and-shoot three-point shooter like almost no other in the league right now. You're 100% right. So Matisse has to be your starting three. You make up for the defense that you lose in Seth Curry. You've obviously still got Ben on the floor. So it's basically when JJ Redick was here. You still can be defensively capable having JJ Redick on the floor as long as you've got a couple of good wing defenders. Matisse can defend. We know this. Then your second unit's going to be Shake as your one, Ty Maxey as your two, and Danny Green would be the three off the bench. And you have spacing again. So when Shake does ISO up, if he starts to go on a roll and they start to bring a second defender in on him when he drives, you have more spacing in the second unit as well.
Yeah.
We need a good first unit, but benches win championships. You need a good bench.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do with the starting lineup in the second unit, because when I think about a second unit with Shake and Maxey and what I've seen from Maxey so far and what I know Shake can do, neither of them are guys that like love to come off a screen and shoot, and both kind of need the ball in their hands to score. So playing Shake Milton and Maxey together on a second unit, you're going to have a lot of scoring, but they're going to have to figure out very quickly how to complement each other. And Doc Rivers is going to have to figure out very quickly who's the vet on the second unit, which to your point could be Danny Green, and who's going to be the main like playmaker, not point guard, not the guy that's bringing the ball up, not like the guy that can get the ball to his guy where they want it.
Maxey.
You think he's a good enough passer to be the playmaker on that second unit?
For what you're going to need out of your second unit, yeah, I do. I mean, listen, I love Shake. Don't get me wrong, but Shake Milton reminds me, I know people call Lou Williams a point guard. Lou Williams isn't a point guard to me. Lou Williams is a ball-dominant two guard. Shake Milton to me is Lou Williams. I'm not trying to say that he's going to average 23 points a game and be the sixth man of the year, but Shake Milton is the guy that is the ball dominant, walk the ball up and get a shot a la Kyrie Irving style guard. He's not a guy that has prowess in the passing game. He's just not that guy. Shake Milton will be your two and Ty Maxey will be your one in the idea of playmaking. Ty Maxey has shown already at Kentucky that he has the ability to be a playmaker. He's got that level of vision now. He's not going to make LeBron James, Ben Simmons, Luka Doncic passes, but that's not his job. He is a primary scorer. But in the half court, he's your guy. Shake walks the ball off, gets it up to Ty Maxey. Ty sets the play and runs the play. I mean, that's everything. If you look at anything coming out of training camp, bro, that's what they're saying about this kid. In practice, I think he's shown you that he is an NBA player right now. I think that if we have a tournament, like we usually do, Ty Maxey probably goes in the top 7 or 8 this year. So you got a steal of a player and you got to let him play his game, but that is what you're grooming Ty Maxey to be. And that's why it's important to have spacing for him. You want to make it easier. So when he does have to run a play, you do have a guy that can make a contested shot. It's not a, middle of the pack shooter like Furkan Korkmaz. You need somebody better to be able to get the ball to.
So what do the Sixers need I think the answer is very simple, and I'm sure you'd agree, but what do the Sixers need to do this year to compete for a championship in the East?
They cannot have the roster they have right now. Number one, it can't be this roster. Again, not because there's not talent all the way down the list, but because you mentioned this before, Tobias Harris is killing you.
Yeah.
Paying Tobias Harris a max contract to, at the tippity top of his ability, be a 17 or 18 point a game guy, being an undersized 4 because that's what he has to play to score.
Oversized.
You're in bad shape. You're in bad shape. That's it. So
He
you
killed
need to move on from Tobias Harris, and you need to find a 4 that can stretch the floor and who cares about defense, a lot like a Kevin Love. Or you need to get a Zach LaVine to play the starting 2 or 3 on this team and be another a cutthroat, get me a bucket guy on the first unit. You need a Jimmy Butler. I don't think it's fair to say that Ben and Joe can't win with a roster like this because we just don't know yet. Maybe they can. But I know it's much easier when you've got that guy. Like I've said countless times, if James Harden costs me Toby Harris and half the bench and 4 first-round draft picks, I'll bring him in. But I'm not giving up Ben because Ben is crucial to what I have in the rest of this roster. And a scorer like James Harden, Zach LaVine, a go-get-me-a-bucket guy, is imperative. And I think Tobias Harris needs to be off the roster.
Yeah, so we disagree on the Harden thing because I would give Ben up for him because I think I'd have a better window. But aside from that, let's just talk about the current roster as constructed. As we've talked about before, Tobias Harris is not big enough to play the 4 and get you the rebounding and the defensive prowess you need, and he's not quick enough as your ISO guy. We watched the NBA playoffs last year, and every single team that made it far in the playoffs last year and was competing for an NBA title had either a shooting guard or a point guard that could get them a bucket at any time.
So we're calling Jimmy Butler a 2, not a 3?
Well, Jimmy Butler's fast enough to play at that position and guard that position. Okay. But Tyler Herro was going off. Duncan Robinson was going off.
What you're trying to get to, bro, is a big and a killer. That's what they had.
My point is that if your ISO go-to get me a bucket guy is your starting 7'2" center, you're not going to win an NBA championship, and that's what the Sixers have right now. I'm giving up at this point on thinking that Ben Simmons is going to come into any season and just start shooting the basketball and be any type of efficient at it. So I'm throwing it out the window because my easy answer would be, well, Ben Simmons has to shoot at 33%.
Hey, hold on. Can I ask you a quick question? Because you're going on a Ben Simmons rant. So let's imagine a world that exists like you just painted, that Ben Simmons does not shoot, right? From outside is what we're talking about.
Right.
If I told you that Ben Simmons averaged 18.5, 9-9, and he shot 65% from the free throw line and 70% from the floor, are you happy?
70% from the floor?
Yep.
Why would he shoot 70% from the floor?
Because he's not shooting. He's driving layups and taking 8 shots.
Aside from that percentage, that's kind of what he's giving you right now, isn't he?
Would you be happy with that? Would you be happy with that, Ben Simmons?
No, because once the playoffs comes around, I'm getting the same thing. It's about the playoffs.
65% from the free throw line and 70% from the floor.
No, not unless
I take it.
No, I don't.
It doesn't need to be a shot. He's 6'10". It could be a drive. It doesn't need to be a shot.
The point I'm trying to make, Justin, is that's almost what he's giving you right now. The problem is when you get to the playoffs and the floor shrinks because they know he can't shoot. It's the same problem with Giannis. It's the same exact thing. So I don't care if he shoots 90% during the regular season. He's not going to shoot that way.
I think you're wrong.
But
I know that you hate Ben Simmons.
That's what he's doing right now.
I know that you hate Ben Simmons because you want him to be a point guard version of Kevin Durant. I hate to break this to you. Kevin Durant can't play point guard. He's too fucking big, and he worked on his shot instead.
I'm not even thinking about Kevin Durant.
Ben Simmons is Kevin Durant's size, but he is a playmaking point guard. That's how his father raised him. That's what he knows how to do.
That's fine, he can be. But your question to me was, if he gives me these stats, are you happy?
You are retarded if you're trying to tell me that 70% from the floor.
Nobody's shooting 70% from the floor.
And 65. I didn't say that it happened. I asked you if it did, would you be satisfied? To make the point. This is my point. You just hate Ben Simmons. You don't want him to succeed on this team. You want selfish ass Big
Period.
beard James Harden to come in here and ride Joel Embiid's fucking youth into a title. No, Ben
Yep.
Simmons is one of the best point guards in this league, and he does not need to shoot threes.
I agree.
He doesn't need to shoot threes. He doesn't need to.
Giannis is the MVP of the league, and he got bounced last year in the early playoffs. He's the MVP.
Giannis Antetokounmpo does not provide everything else that Ben Simmons does. How many points per game is Seth Curry going to average?
You wouldn't trade Ben Simmons for Giannis right now.
No, absolutely not. Giannis gives me less than Ben does. Giannis is going to score 40. Wait a minute. Giannis is going to score 40 points a game. No shit. But Giannis isn't going to give me 9 or 10 assists a game. Giannis isn't going to make plays for me. I get weaker. I have Joel Embiid. What the fuck would I need Giannis for?
Okay, I can't even. You just said you wouldn't trade Ben Simmons for Giannis, so we're gonna wrap.
Nothing for me with Joel Embiid. If you ask me would I trade Joel Embiid and Giannis is my big, sure. I can't.
Well, then you have Ben Simmons and Giannis on the same team. It's the same thing. It doesn't get any better for you.
No, it does. It doesn't make me worse. Giannis doesn't provide anything but scoring.
He averages 7 assists a game. Aside from that, so they are similar, but one's an MVP.
Similar, not the same.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about Tori's comment here.
Yes, I said similar, not the same.
I know what you said. I'm just baffled by the conversation that we're having right now. Sixers play tonight at 7. We have records for you on Sunday. I think once again, Justin, I think you had a winning record this week. I had a winning record this week. If you bet with us this week, you won some money again. We'll go over that on Sunday. We'll make our pick for Saturday. We have 3 NFL games on Saturday. We'll post those on the Big Facts page on Saturday morning or on Friday night. Justin, any closing thoughts? And we'll be back with everyone Sunday. Any closing thoughts you have?
First of all, Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. I've got 3 days off work, Aaron. You know how crazy that is in the car business. I work for a guy who gave me 3. I'm off on Wednesdays naturally, which is when we record. I'm closed on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I don't know what to do with myself.
Close the store,
man. Merry Christmas to everybody. I'm excited for the Sixers game tonight. It's going to be big. We'll get our picks up for this weekend in football. Hopefully we have a little bit better of a week. We were over 500, but not by much. No, I'm not trading Ben Simmons for James Harden or Giannis on this team. That's all I have. Merry Christmas, sir.
Sixers Wizards tonight, 7 o'clock. We'll get to see Bradley Beal and the Russell Westbrook pairing for the first time. We'll get to see the new look 76ers with Doc Rivers and how that plays out. We'll see you Sunday at 11 a.m. Big Facts on all streaming platforms. And we will catch you, Tori, on Sunday morning.